Yo! Come all. Nothing but love, nothing but respect. You know what we do, what we don't, what we is, what we isn't, and what we is here tonight. Beautiful Sunday night. It's 8 p.m. where I am, and we are covering One Piece chapter 1054, doing the live discussion. I got with me tonight Eggs for Brekkie, aka Daniel. Say hello, my guy. Say hello again, because I had you mute.
Hello.
There we go. Now we're all sorted, and now we're all balanced. That should be the best way things can be right now. So let's just stop beating around the bush. We'll get straight into it, right? Because we've already talked a little bit about this chapter today, but we were saving a lot of this for on stream, weren't we? Let's just pick up. We'll start up with the opening of the chapter. We've got this beautiful color spread of all the new four Yonko. Really cool to see all of them side by side. The only thing that I think just kind of was a bit weird to me was that Shanks and Blackbeard have pink eyes. Like, I don't know if that's meant to represent like that's their normal eye color or what, or maybe that's like observation haki sort of thing, like you know how it gets displayed in the anime. But
Come again? When did that happen?
right, you see that they've got pink eyes,
In the
color spread.
hang on, I'm loading up the chapter.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird.
It's weirdly slow right now.
Nah, it's all good. Yeah, it's just when I opened it up,
Yeah.
I just thought it was really odd because I've never thought of Blackbeard having brown eyes. Shanks I could understand, but like they even they go out of the way to be like, you know, Buggy's got the blue eyes, Shanks and
Yeah.
Blackbeard have got the pink eyes, and I was just sort of like, it's odd since they use that to depict observation haki in the anime. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very interesting. And obviously Luffy has his eyes closed.
Yes, but I mean, we've seen it time and time again that he sort of gets that hue when he's activating his observation haki. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we're gearing up for a Shanks versus Blackbeard matchup soon. Who knows?
Have we had have we had like a colored version of Joy Boy's eyes officially?
I yes, we have. They're red.
Okay.
That's only from the official merchandise though. That's the only place we've seen them at the moment.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, let's keep going though. This chapter starts off pretty damn crazy, doesn't it? With Green Bull rolling up. But something that I found very odd with this, right, was it starts off in the flower capital while everyone's partying, and it's the scabbards like they've sensed Green Bull's rolling up, and they're all scattering to get their stuff together to go fight him.
Yeah.
Which, as I was saying to you off stream, is odd, and it feels like shouldn't Luffy, Kid, and Law be able to sense
Sense it
him
as well.
if they
Yeah.
are? So I don't know if like next chapter or what they may rock up, or even
Maybe it was like a bird message or something got sent, and that's how they found out.
potentially.
Like it got sent to Momo, and then Momo like told his retainers, that kind of thing. Because like it really does seem like Luffy right now is basically just like kind of chilling in his own little area on his own, like just partying and recovering and doing his own thing,
Yeah.
while Momo is like the leader of Wano and knows everything that's going on and is telling everybody what to do. So it could just be that like, you know, word didn't get to Luffy because the whole point is just like, don't trouble Luffy, just let him chill out.
Yeah.
And we're gonna deal with everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see that being a possibility for sure. But yo, this run was wild to me. Of Aramaki pulling up, right? And so there's a few different things that I want to point out here, right? So if we go to his second page where he first uses his flexing forest muscle, right?
Uh-huh.
If you actually pay attention here, so I mean, obviously he specifies this is the forest fruit, right?
Mhm.
So it made him a forest man, not a tree man, not a plant man, a forest man. So he's encapsulating everything that's in a forest, right?
Yeah.
And then he specifies that his power is a logia and a source of life that rivals the seas. Now, if you look at him, see how he's sort of got the flaming hair while he starts to turn his arms into the forest?
Yeah.
If you follow, from our perspective, the right side, but his left arm, right?
Mhm.
If you actually follow his tendril, that arm becomes the tree before the fist. So those fists
Yeah.
that are coming out aren't actually his hands.
Yes, correct.
So he's doing a katakuri here when katakuri's awakened.
Yeah, he's spread out flowers all along the ground in front of him, and that's kind of, I consider that kind of like his zone of control sort of thing.
Yep.
And it seems like he can make everything come out of that sort of zone of control. So probably it's like what I'm imagining right now is like, as long as there's flowers on the ground under you, he can make stuff come out of those
Yep.
flowers. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's very interesting. And like I said, because if you follow those tendrils, that's not his hand, right?
Mhm.
Or at least not obviously his hand. To me, this is crazy because it means, and we kind of see this at the like later on where he starts clashing with Momo, right? That those tendrils or those hands that he can form, super versatile. And we sort of talked about this in the live discussion and a little bit off stream, but because he's a forest man, it's very ambiguous what that encapsulates, right?
Actually, sorry, I just noticed one thing. It's possible if you wanted to argue it, you can see that his right arm essentially goes into the ground.
Yep,
You could argue that everything there,
is his hand.
other than that one tree, is his right arm.
Yep,
So both of those fists would be his right arm, essentially.
potentially.
It just depends, yeah.
So it's hard though because it's like the right arm looks like it goes straight down. The left arm we can sort of see it
Yeah, we
vining.
can see it. Yeah.
So that like it could be either. It could just be an artistic choice. Like I said though, it's kind of interesting that his hair sort of gets that flaming sort of energy, as opposed to it
Yeah.
being sort of like I would have thought it would have turned more like a branch, like the like the tree shrubbery.
Yeah.
But that sort of
Another thing that I really like is like the kind of like random seemingly nature of it. Like how like even those fists, he's obviously very intentionally formed them into fists, but there's still like random shrubs and vines and stuff coming off of them.
yes.
And so like, and then with his arms, like we were saying, like it's possible that his left arm goes into the ground as well, but then it just has like that vine come off of it and turn into a tree. And so there's a bunch of random bits of wood around that he's not definitely not using to attack. So it seems almost like he's just kind of like unleashing his power, and it's all just kind of happening at random other than the fist that he's intentionally making.
Mm.
So it's just cool to see that kind of like I don't think it's like a necessarily a big thing for his combat, but it's just cool to see that kind of art style of like the way that his power kind of works is it's just sort of like crazy nature chaos things you can't really control.
It
Like how this like you can't control the power of nature kind of deal.
It definitely is really cool, and I also like how it's more of an area of effect sort of ability. And unlike other admirals, it's not as lethal, I should say, off cuff. But I love the duality of he seems like such a bringer of death, but his ability just sprouts so much life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
two very interesting things here, and this may sort of skip us around a little bit here. But on that page, to the right of those fists, you see him pointing his finger, right?
Mhm.
So we see his sword in his jeans, and we see the writing on his left side.
Yep.
Like his tattoo, yeah?
Yep.
Now, if you look at the middle panel underneath him turning into when he starts to form into the tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can see up the top his face as he's turned into the sort of ent tree form. And then we see this dark shading on his left side next to the right bubble of dialogue. Right?
Is this the one where you see like Neko cutting the vines
No. So
above that?
two to the left of that.
That's Inu. I meant the next page. Okay, two to the left of that. Okay, that one, yeah?
Yeah. So you see that black shading to the left of the right dialogue bubble.
I can see like the shrub. You mean the black shading that's kind of like on his arm sort of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you can see his face there up the top of that. And you see that black shading there, right? Now, if you continue down to not the next page, but the page after, that black shading is still there.
Yeah, true.
Right? And it's very predominant and it's very distinct to the rest of his body, yeah?
Yeah, and it's still in that same arm.
Yep. So if you actually scroll up, you can see him a bit more front on. And then even on that page, and where is it specifically? So there's a panel here somewhere. I've got to pick it out perfectly. Oh, actually, okay. So that one where Momo goes to shoot the fireball, and we see that black shading. At the bottom of that page on the right, you see him in his sort of Logia tree form, right? And you see that he's still got the tattoos on him.
Yeah.
So that shading isn't his tattoos, but that shading is specifically where he holsters his black blade. So that's what I was talking to you about off stream, where that looks like he's assimilating his black blade into his tree form, and we haven't seen him use it yet. But it's interesting that it is very purposefully shaded every time we get that angle, right? Yeah. Even if the rest of him is very well illuminated. So it's not just a matter of like it's just the shading. You know what I mean? It's a very precise. The left back side where that sword would be holstered, and it's interesting that we still see his tattoo, and we see that the tattoo's separate to that marking, so it's not like the part of his body that would have been tattooed was that shading.
Yeah.
So that leaves me to think, right, like, this is... If you were to equate this to Kaito, this is just like him using the dragon form as just like a very generic sort of ability. You know what I mean? He's not going all out. He's not doing anything too crazy. He's not really flexing Haki or anything. He's just sort of doing some area of effect attack because it's just honestly overwhelming.
Yeah.
The other thing to note is on the page above that, we see that first scene of Neko cutting off his tendril, and then we see Denjiro, Raizo, Kawamatsu, and Nekomamushi all cutting him. You know what I mean? But none of that is hurting him. So we had that discussion. Also, Shinobu's there. We had this discussion off stream, but I'll reiterate it here. Personally, I lean towards thinking at the moment that because he's a Logia and because he's controlling all these components, that his essence is in those areas. And the reason it doesn't hurt him like it would a normal Logia that's doing this is because a tree's natural ability to heal, right? But I know that you had a bit of a different take on what you thought this could possibly be. Do you want to share that?
Sorry, what part are we talking about?
The tendrils and that getting cut off of Green Bull.
Yeah, I essentially think that like it could just be like kind of like a projection. So like when you think about Aki Inu shooting his fire like magma fists, or you have like Aokiji shooting the big icicles or the pheasants, the frozen pheasants, they can get cut and he doesn't take damage. So essentially, like it could just be that he's keeping his sort of like physical form, and then he's like firing off tendrils, and obviously because of the nature of his fruit, they're still attached, and so he's kind of like quote unquote soul isn't inside that. In the same way that like if Ace were to shoot a wall of fire at you and you cut the wall of fire, you don't necessarily cut him. So I think it's kind of a unique fruit in that like everything is still sort of connected to his body, nothing's really detached, but it could not necessarily be quote unquote part of his body.
Yep. So I understand that like obviously we sort of, and until proven otherwise, we both sort of lean on different sections of this, but it is interesting how like both are very plausible because, and I think we both can agree on this, it's very odd that he's regarded as a Logia in the first place and not a zone.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I almost want to say I don't necessarily understand that decision unless it's going to end up being something sort of like Luffy's Devil Fruit, where this is a Logia when you first eat it, and if you awaken it, it's a paramecia, a zone.
Actually, something else to consider is like Obviously, we saw Pika essentially like surround himself in stone and then manipulate the stone, even though he only had a paramecia,
Mm.
which is very similar to what Green Bull here is doing. Because if you notice, even like in the panel just before Momo bites him, you can see he's now turned into like this big giant
Tree form.
wood forest creature, but he still has like his body. You can still see like his six pack and his face, things like that.
Yeah.
So it really does seem like he's kind of just like morphing his own body as a Zoan would do, or as you would be as a Paramecia, kind of like creating forest around you. Um, whereas he is a Logia. But then the other thing to consider would be Blackbeard is a special type of Logia where he doesn't have a intangible body. So it is entirely
See,
possible that like Logia could be. It's not necessarily
the
intangible.
way I see this as its intangibility, right, is
Mhm.
it's instead of looking at it like Blackbeard's, I view it more like Aokiji, right? So Aokiji's cold fruit allows him to turn into and control ice, right? When you hit
Mhm.
ice, it's a solid. It's not a liquid or intangible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
shatters and then reforms from that, right?
Mhm.
Whereas for me, what I see here happening is that Green Bull, because he's a plant essentially, right? He takes the damage sort of like Marco and just has hyper regeneration, and that's what makes him like he may not have like a traditional intangible body like a Logia, but what he does have is the I can create, control, telenetically control, and turn into said element. You know what I mean? But where he
Mhm.
loses that regular intangibility, he makes up for it by the nature of the ability just being essentially a perfect healing factor. Because I know real forests and real trees don't necessarily heal that fast, but because he's got a will or an intent in that, you know what I mean, and he can control it at will, it sort of acts as if that is the case.
I mean, like it is always entirely possible that he's like, like, oh, I can embody like the flower of healing, and that therefore I can heal, or like,
Mm.
I can also mix in, because I can become nature itself. I can basically mix in all these like super healing herbs into my blood that makes me instantly heal and things like that. He could just basically just be like ultimate herbal medicine on
Mm.
steroids.
I think it's
Um,
kind of funny
yeah.
how kind of fat and ugly he looks in this form though.
Mhm.
I know he's got a ripped 8 pack, but like the way his head morphs into it is just ridiculous to me.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I
Then
mean?
again, Gear 4,
I was laughing my ass off the entire time I was reading this. All I was playing back in my head is tree. I am no tree. I am an ent. You know what I mean? Like I was getting the tree beard flashbacks. Um, but I have to ask, where do you see this going here for Green Bull? Because later on in the chapter we see that there's other important forces near Wano, right? And I know that this segment sort of ends with him very easily shutting down Momo, right? But the scabbards or the people that are present, and I know this may sound like I'm downplaying a bit here. The only ones that are really noteworthy are Denjiro and Yamato, because unfortunately Nekomamushi, it's not. As far as I'm aware, there's no moon out. I might have to scroll up and double check that. Yeah, I don't see a full moon out. So he's going to be severely limited in what he's
I mean,
capable of.
like realistically, like everyone there is really strong. It's just that like the level that we hold admirals to is just like these aren't gonna
Mm.
cut it against the level that we. So if they do win, then like that's big L for admirals, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because yeah, so yeah, I get what you mean.
Um.
It's tough, but thinking about it though is like having like a plant logia, everything.
Mm.
I don't know, man. Like so many things have fire abilities. You know what I mean? Like you get hard countered by Sabo, Akainu, even like Luffy has a fire fist attack.
So the interesting thing about that to
If
me,
Momo could borrow breath, oof.
the interesting thing about that to me is, so we're looking at it just from the typical idea of it being wood, right? But what if it's like being forest as opposed to a woodwood logia, right?
Yeah.
it's harder to burn wet things. What if he's a bit sort of he's a bit more liquidy, or and I've mentioned this in the past as well. Being a forest Logia, like I said, because it's got a very ambiguous scale, he could be he could essentially turn into Aramwood, jewel
Yeah.
tree, which we know is fire resistant, right? He could turn into things that the pop greens are. So for all we know, he can actually start like hitting you and exploding.
Yeah, I'd love an Aussie nod when he creates eucalyptus trees and then sets them on fire. That'd be golden.
There's a lot of potential here for a lot of versatility, especially since like in One Piece alone, there's a lot of trees that are very distinct to the universe, right? Like the first thing that popped into my mind was the IQ plant from Strongworld, which rapidly evolves a person, right? So imagine if he's able to produce IQ plant to consume, to just on cuff while it's fighting someone, develop an immunity to something.
Yeah, yeah.
Or remember the trees from Ruskina where Luffy trained in the time skip. Remember how there was a tree there that was poisonous to anything that was nearby? So the animals stayed away from it because if you stayed near it for too long, you'll develop sickness. He could essentially have a passive ability like Akainu, where if you fight him for too long, he poisons you.
Yeah.
Or, and we've seen this time and time again, like Usopp has things that can put you to sleep because there's plants that instantly knock you out.
I mean, yeah, he could do lots of things. Like you try to punch him, and then suddenly the part that you're trying to punch turns into a cactus. You just punch the cactus.
Or maybe he turns into sort of like a maybe he's got sort of like a seed shield or something. Like I know this is a bit of a gag, but Usopp's got the banana canoe. You know what I mean? Like there's all sorts of things that potentially he could pull out that are just ridiculous in terms of versatility here. So
In fairness, I mean, he did beat King like ultra easily.
Oh yeah.
So like, even if you do have a fire ability, you obviously still have to be able to be strong enough to hang against him.
Yeah.
King obviously wasn't.
Which I mean, we can sort of jump to this next section if you want to skip and leave the red hair segment for last. But if we skip that bit, we can also talk about how Green Bull and Fujitora clashed against the Revolutionary Army commanders, and we got a definitive answer as to what happened. Which is pretty wild to say the least, isn't it?
I mean, that's the last thing that I thought would just be straight up that just outright one successfully saved Kuma and then left.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is like, whoa. It's really funny because like, they're the good guys and they're trying to do this. They're trying to save Kuma. As like a fan, you'd be like, oh, well then they're gonna save Kuma. But then you think, no, it can't be that simple. It must like take a casualty or Sabo's been captured or something. And then so then you start thinking that so obviously, and then Oda surprises you by like, no, it's what you should have thought all along.
The problem is with this as well, and I don't want to get too crazy in speculation and theories here, right? But although we heard that, we didn't see any of them. You know what I mean? So one, we don't know what condition any of them are in. Two, imagine the Giga Brain play if Green Bull and Fuji actually beat them, and the Celestial, the Gorosei, have them in prison and just like lied and said, "Oh, they beat us. Oh," so they could weed out enemies. Like I know for a fact they're all fine.
Isn't this a conversation between the Gorosei?
No, this conversation is between Akainu and Kizaru.
Oh, okay.
And the new Navy Criminal Affairs Unit Chief, Black Horse. Which, I mean, mind you, like, that, it's an arse pull of a theory, you know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense. But it would actually be funny, because, like, it's odd how, like, we didn't see them at all, and you would have thought we would have seen at least a panel of them being, like, shit, we need to recover, or we need to head here, there, or wherever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because like I said, it's also very interesting that we didn't find out. Like we have no idea that Bonnie was involved or wasn't involved. Which the last time we saw her, she was specifically set up to have been involved.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like she was directly under the conflict, directly next to the conflict, with the goal of freeing Kuma.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's obviously like more to this story than we know. Not to mention they bring up the fact that Greenbull and Fujitora couldn't fight all out in Marijoa, specifically where they are. And if you sort of look at the little glimpses we get to see of it, it was right in the heart of the city. So, I mean, unless Marijoa is now just a lush forest with a massive gravity hole in it, they really didn't get to fight all out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because, I mean, like, we saw in Fuji's introduction, he can make a hole down to God knows where in an instant. And that could be something that would be hyper lethal here for some of these characters, you know what I mean? Like, no offense to Lindbergh, but I don't know if he's taking a trip down to the Earth's core and coming back fine.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's interesting. It's interesting. And now that we know what Greenbull's powers are and how this turned out, it's hard not to try and form some headcanon of, okay, how could they have gotten involved? How well off were they? What were the matchups? Is it what it's sort of being portrayed here, where it's Morley and Karasu versus Fuji, and Sabo and Lingenberg versus Greenbull? Who carried? Who didn't carry? Who was sort of useless in that? Because this really...
It was the question, like, could Kuma fight with them?
Yeah.
Or was he just, like, a burden? Like, was he a burden, or was he just not even relevant, or did he fight with them?
Or was it just... the fight starts by Morley just immediately opening up a hole under Kuma and saving him.
Yeah.
And then the Admiral's like, oh, we can sense them, let's go fight. And it's a prolonged thing of, can we get enough time to escape? There's a lot of different possibilities here. But...
Yeah. The thing is, was we don't know the injuries that Sabo and his team took, but we do know that at least Fujitora took some damage. So if it was like all they did was take him and run away and they had to clash a little bit, the little bit of clash ended up in an Admiral getting hurt. So I doubt it was just a little bit of clash.
I mean, we don't even know if Fujitora let them get away.
Yeah, no, I don't think he let them get away. I mean, like, he was unable to capture them.
Because well,
like, it's not that they just fully ran and... maybe Fuji like did a couple projectile slashes and they dodged them and then they ran off. Like, there obviously was a full-on fight because Fuji ended up injured.
See, that's the problem,
there was
though,
enough of a fight
where
to cause that
it's
injury.
like, in terms of the timeline, when we saw Fuji injured was... It was a little bit ago now from when we're seeing Greenbull, right? But it was it was a day before the raid that Fuji was injured. But we see Greenbull now, and he's completely fine. Not a scratch on him, you know what I mean? So there was at least...
I don't necessarily think Greenbull took damage.
So there was at least no significant damage to at least one of them, and there was very minimal damage to the other.
Yeah, but I mean, the other was bandaged up. Like, the thing is that, like, even like Luffy now, after fighting Kaido, like, almost to death, he's chilling. It's been a week and he's fully back,
Yeah. See,
and like, King basically died against Zoro, and he was back as far as we could tell.
But he was bandaged up.
Killed. Yeah, he was bandaged up. Yeah, but like, I mean, that's the same degree of
It's a hard thing, because obviously we didn't get to see it on screen, which honestly, it's cool, but it would have been interesting. Like, could you imagine if we got one flashback panel of what it looked like on the battlefield with all four versus the two admirals? Like, that panel alone would have been a great double page spread. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but here's the thing: is like, to be honest, like, if we saw Sabo's side of things after the battle, and like Morley had lost an arm and the rest of them were bandaged, I would still be like,
good on them.
I mean, hey, they got Kuma and got away. Like,
no, they like low-key, they achieved everything they wanted to, which leads me to the other point, right? They are going to have a big bounty increase. Because it's one thing to, like, our allied forces to get a bounty increase for what they did against like the Big Mom and Beast Pirate Alliance. But these guys directly did it against the world government. And now they're being heralded as heroes. And they achieved all their goals. They achieved like 5 different things here. You know what I mean? So it's honestly like probably outside of Blackbeard, this is probably the biggest embarrassment the world government has faced in the canon story that we've seen on screen. So I gotta ask you, what do you think? What do you think their bounties are gonna jump to? And I might pull up the list of the revolutionary bounties.
I'm thinking with the level that Sabo's at now, with his like reverence, I'm thinking like we were talking about, really under Shanks but over the rest of the Yonko.
So I don't disagree, at least for Sabo specifically, right? I think Sabo's going to be sitting in the low mid 300s. 3 bill, sorry. But so let's start off with the bottom. Morley had a starting bounty of 293 million berries. After this incident, what do you think the bare minimum jump's going to be?
I'd say like 600.
Almost double? Or more than double?
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
That's fair.
Because it's really hard to tell like to what degree they are. They were involved in the fight. Because like Sabo right now is getting like this whole chapter is just hyping the hell out of Sabo, right? It's like he's the Flame Emperor. They won. Sabo's got out. He's clean. Like, yeah, it's and like all of the attention has been given to Sabo.
Yeah,
like the news and all that stuff. So like it's entirely possible that like the rest of them just like didn't die. Meanwhile, Sabo like went to town on admirals. You know, that kind of like level.
That sort of works as well in the sense that if Green Bull is susceptible to fire, imagine how bad it is going up against your one weakness while you're also in an area where you have to fight in a significantly nerfed way, and your ability also fuels your enemy's ability.
Yeah,
like that alone could just be like a massive like, ooh, well, what else was I gonna do? You know what I mean? But I think at least this has to give everyone a 200 mil jump.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, if not more, which is interesting because it's like we just got the bounties revealed for the revs, but now that they're coming out of the shadows and like stepping onto the front stage, it'll be really interesting to see how that dynamic shifts, especially when we get Dragon's bounty reveal, because the way I see it at this point in time, they're really playing up the idea that essentially Dragon's going to have a bounty Yonko and Sabo will too, and then there'll be a bit a bit of a jump. Pardon me. A bit of a jump, and then the rest of the squads are going to have pretty high bounties, because at the moment you've got Morley at 293, Lindbergh at 316 mil, Karasu at 400 mil, and Bello Betty at 457 mil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Bello Betty's not involved in this, so arguably her bounty won't move at all. But all the others' bounties, I think, are going to jump up. So I think we're going to be expecting Karasu at like the 600 to 700 mil range. Lindbergh at sort of the 515. Maybe I don't want to say Lindbergh over 500 mil. You know what I mean? Because like, in all honesty, like Lindbergh to me, I think is the most disappointing of the revolutionary commanders. But then again, it's like, he's a really good tech guy. We saw him with his ice gun and that. We don't know what other elements he's got for weapons, and he's a mink. So imagine if he can whip out the Sulong plus use high-tech weapons.
I mean, yeah, like it's weird, but I mean, it's just that it's hard to imagine that the amount of technology is doing anything against these monsters, right? Like,
when you see people exhaling and annihilating an entire mountain, it's like even our world you couldn't destroy a mountain that easily.
Mm.
Even in our like highest, like sure you could shoot a nuke at it, but like how long would it take to create the nuke, launch the nuke, target the coordinates, and all that stuff? Whereas Kaido can just go ha, and it destroys a mountain.
Yeah.
So like it just even with our level of technology, it's kind of amazing to think.
I think it'd
Yeah,
be.
I don't know. Unless Lindbergh has like a machine gun that fires Kizaru lasers, and he just flies around machine gunning Kizaru lasers with like amazing perception haki. I mean, that'd be pretty insane.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. It is. It is something that sort of is like shit. Like, because we've talked about this because this would have been 2 years in the making. This, you know what I mean? Like Act 3's probably gone for 2 years, right? So we've probably been sitting on the information about the Revs versus the Admirals for 2 years now, and we finally get the results, and it's just not what we expected at all.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know-
hey, it's better.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Better than
I'm happy because nothing was going to upset me more than if Sabo had just got off-screened. That would have been super
And that's the
disappointing.
thing is, either he gets off screen or he gets captured, and then Luffy has to have another rescue arc, which is kind of like you've already done that, Oda.
Yeah. And I'm glad he didn't go down the same route with it. But
Yeah, exactly.
the question, like, the problem is with this, even though they even address it in the chapter, I can see people running in the other direction with this being like the Admirals are trash. They couldn't even take it down Sabo and a few good men.
That's basically the first thing that I said to you when I saw you about this chapter was, yeah, get ready for the Admiral hate because it's not only that, but it's also Yamato smacking.
See,
Green Ball.
The thing is with that though, Yamato smacked Kaido. And
Yeah, but here's the thing: is that it's the same thing that happened when Luffy red rocked Kaido. Everyone's like, "Holy shit, Luffy's got this, man! Oh my god!"
Until you realize that Green Bull didn't even bleed from this. Like Kaido bled from Yamato's haki. Ulti got knocked out for a red hot second from Yamato's haki. Green Bull just goes, "Man, that hurt." You know what I mean? Like,
damn, that's good haki.
Yeah, and it's like it's fair enough, but at the same you can look on Twitter on this. If you haven't done so already, check out the link to the Twitter is in the description down below. It's the most recent thing I tweeted, I think. I did a rundown of all the parallels between Green Bull here fighting these people and Kaido fighting these people, because thankfully we've had a lot of these exact same things happen already in the story. And at most steps of the way, if you look at them side by side, Green Bull's more impressive. But it's funny how we just get the opposite impression, specifically coming off Kaido. And I don't know if that's because people want to love to hate him because his personality isn't as interesting because he's a bit of a bigot and a piece of crap, or people just set in the way of downplaying the Admirals for the Yonko agenda. Especially since, and I don't understand this, right? This will be a bit of a tangent. I don't understand the idea of needing to say that the Admirals are definitively weaker than all of the Yonko, right? Because I see people throw anything from like, oh, you know, they're as strong as like a first commander, if that, all the way up to they're over the Yonko. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The reason why I don't get it is because come the end of the series, the more people you have of that caliber, the more people you're going to need to achieve that caliber. You know what I mean? So people downplay them so bad. Like, oh, they're not interested. They're all going to be weaker than that. I don't get the mindset because it's like, are you not wanting Luffy to be able to definitively 1v1 these people from scratch? Are you saying that you don't want Zoro to have a fight like against one of these people and be like, look how strong Zoro is? Are you saying that like the only time you ever want to see Dragon or Shanks fight is when they lose? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't get the mindset. Like, I understand being like, oh, how's so many people this strong come out of the woodworks? But it's like, the more the world government's bolstered, which seeing Green Bull move here definitely feels bolstered, and then having the introduction of the Tensei, is it? Tensei, the Black Horse? These these
yeah, yeah.
boosts coming to the world government, I look at it with joy. Not because I'm like trying to be like, see, I told you the world government was stronger, but because I'm like, yo, we're actually going to get to see people fight, and it's not going to be an immediate wash. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So it definitely,
Yeah, I like. On one hand, I like like that they're strong. I just don't want to see too much loss in a sense. You know what I mean? Like,
yep,
I don't want it to be like they're just constantly crapping on everybody, um, over and over again. I want there to be like a bit of a fight back and forth because like I feel like the way that Oda sort of said it was like, oh, there's like a balance between like the Yonko and the warlords and the navy. But then when you actually look at it on paper, it's like, well, an admiral seems to be like as strong as a Yonko, and they have three admirals plus a fleet admiral plus two soon-to-be admirals. Plus, then Akina just
yep.
steps in and does this navy draft and creates two more admirals. Plus, they have this black horse, and it's like, were they ever equal? But now it's like all these events are happening, and we're seeing that like the navy are kind of getting pushed back, right? Like
They're
the admirals
fighting
aren't
too
winning the
many
fights that they
fronts.
need to be fighting. Yeah, exactly. The admirals aren't winning the fights they need to be winning, and they just kind of keep messing up. And now we're at this point where in this chapter you've got Akiunu just being like, "All right, screw it, I'm going to fight him on every front." It's kind of like it's almost like he's in a position where he's no longer in control. Now he's just like stubbornly like, "Nah, I'm not losing control. Screw you guys. I'm going to keep fighting."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whereas I feel like another fleet admiral would be a bit more smart and would be like, okay, we need to like make sure that we have our admirals like thinking about what they're doing, going to the right places, like kind of take a step back,
Mm.
reassess. But obviously, Akainu is that ambitious person where he will just keep pushing forward. It's like the harder of a position that he's in, he will still keep pushing forward. He'll just fight harder, kind of thing.
Mm.
That I think will probably kind of be his undoing in a sense. Where I think like at the end of One Piece, we'll kind of look at Akainu as like as an individual he was really strong, but as a leader he wasn't very good. He kind of fucked up.
I think the problem is he's also born to fail this situation.
Yeah.
Like the backing that Luffy's getting, the backing that Sabo's getting, the backing that even like Kid and Law are getting, you know what I mean? Plus the warlords and stuff like that. Plus like there's just so many things stacked up against him. I think he's doing the best he can, but it's at the same point in time I don't think when he took this job, he was promised like a work car, paid time off, minimal work hours, you know what I mean? None of it's being achieved. It's like he
Yeah.
got lied to.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like there was probably. I mean, Sengoku is a smart guy, right? Like
Mm.
Sengoku was around in the hardest pirate era with Roger and all of that, and he was like fighting them and everything. And he's been a fleet district commander for ages. He never moved Marineford to the New World. Suddenly, Akino comes in and he goes, "I know better," and he just moves Marineford in, hires these two admirals, putting them in like some of the highest positions. He doesn't know them. You know what I mean? Like Green Bull right now seems like a bit of a loose cannon,
Mm-hmm.
bit of a crazy dude. And then Fuji isn't even really that loyal to the Navy. He just genuinely wants like what's right kind of thing. Like most Navy Marines would have basically been like bred with the minds like raised and bred with the mindset of like, yeah, the world government is the best. You do whatever the celestial dragons want, etc., etc. They were basically like brainwashed to like never say no to Akinu's orders.
Yeah.
They'll just always say yes. But he just takes these two random wild cards, puts them in an extremely powerful position, expecting that
I
they're gonna
I would
do
not
exactly what he
have
wants.
thrown
And
them
so yeah,
in a position higher than vice admiral because regardless of how they were on paper to me, I'd be like, dude, you need to prove yourself to me. You need to put in a few good years.
yeah. I mean that's the thing as well. Is like if he's gonna make sword, or maybe put a bunch of wild cards in sword, make like a Suicide Squad basically,
Mm.
right? A bunch of crazy dudes that are really strong, and then just send them out to like kill Yonko, like but yeah, but anyway, like that's kind of his thing is like he's just like, oh no, nothing will go wrong. I'll just push forward and aggressively try to win. Is that's kind of like Akinu's mindset. And I'm thinking, like um Fujitora is sort of like, I don't really know if I care for the Navy anymore. They're kind of doing a bunch of really bad stuff and he might even betray. And then You've got Green Bull who's just kind of doing whatever he wants, and if he gets himself killed right now in Wano, like, Akinu specifically said, like, don't go in, don't fight people. And if he just goes in anyway and gets himself killed, well, that's a waste of an admiral. And if you're the one that gave him that fruit, then that's a waste of an incredibly good fruit that you could have given to someone else, to like a vice admiral or something. And so it's like, these like little decisions would just be like tearing apart the Navy. And he's basically just like, it's like you've got like this really big, powerful battleship, and all the other ships on the sea are like smaller dinghies, but they have a few cannons on them, and you're just like, I'm just gonna sail into all of them and just kill them all. And then eventually, the little dinghies start getting shots in, and your ship starts falling apart. Like you can't handle, even if you're stronger than everyone, you can't handle taking on everyone. How many
I
12-year-olds can you really beat up?
I think, and you said this, Austrian. I think it's an excellent theory for going forward. It'll be really interesting to see the admirals continue to maintain their own individual strength, but it start to play out in worse and worse scenarios where they have more and more collateral damage to get jobs done, which will just add more and more fire to the fuel for the revs. You know what I mean? Like, if Akainu goes to one of these rebelling towns and just wipes them out, or the same with Kizaru, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Now you have like 8 more rebelling towns, because that town is now a martyr for the rest, and now everyone's rebelling against you, and he's just made it worse.
Get in the discussion said Mihawk didn't become an emperor since he doesn't have any territorial crew. Yep. We still don't know the results of the warlords, but the interesting thing is, last time we saw stuff about it, they were just on the doorstep about to take them, but we also had Brennu talking about how he was going to drop new bounties for the warlords. So that'll be interesting, especially since we know that Kuma escaped here. So I wonder if Kuma's going to get an upgraded bounty himself.
Yeah. True, actually, yeah.
Something to note on this last page, right? I obsessed over this, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You've got the rally of the people supporting Sabo, and we saw that last chapter in that little mini scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
These flags. We've got a Marine government flag. We've got a flag with a star on it. We've got the Shimotsuki flag. We've got a flag with a V. We've got the Sabo flag. And we've got a new flag which looks like a world government flag with an arrow through it.
Yes.
And then on the other side, we also see a Revolutionary Army flag, which we would see on the left side up the top left as well.
Yeah.
These flags are really interesting to me. So one, we know that the Shimotsuki have a tie with the Revolutionary Army, since in Chapter 0, we saw that when Zoro was training at the dojo as a kid, Dragon rocked up on his island.
Mm-hmm.
So it's odd that they're drawing the flag of the Shimotsuki here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
I've got absolutely no idea what this star flag is. The V flag, the closest I could think of is maybe VV. But, I mean, I've got no idea what that is. It's not.
Maybe the each of the generals have their own flag. The different seas.
See, I would think that, except this one with the world government flag and the arrow through it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. It just screams to me Boa. Even though it's not the Kuja pirate flag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like, maybe I'm reading too far into this. I 100% feel like there's some Easter eggs in here.
Yeah.
Chat's asking, did we already talk about Barto? No, we specifically skipped the Shanks stuff for last. But you know what? Let's move over to that for a second. And
by the way, this panel is... Oh, no. This would be the perfect panel for a Panda Man.
See,
a slip odor.
I
Panda Man.
I actually thought that, right? And then it looks like someone's wearing a Panda Man hat in the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the beanie with the panda ears.
Yeah, and then to the right of that person, like not very colored in, is like a little
panda head as well.
Yeah.
Like a Beppo hat.
It has to be obvious more. It has to be more obvious.
Yeah. Okay, let's cut to the Shanks stuff then.
Again, I guess Panda Man can't get political, right?
Panda D Man is actually going to be like the Kaguya of the series. Like, you watch it, it'll come.
No.
It'll come.
Oh, if that happened, I would disown.
It'd be funny though. It'll like you'd honestly you could not stop laughing because you'd be like, it was there the whole time and no one wanted to call it.
It would, but like all the Narutards would just be like, "Yeah, One Piece is a joke," and you'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay."
Yeah. All right. So chat wants us to talk about the Barto thing. So let's start with the beginning of the Shanks bit. So we see that Shanks is at Wano. Dick tease and a half that he rocks up to Wano and does nothing. That made me so mad.
Yeah.
I was not okay with that. I was like, what? Why?
Something that I said to you, before was like I think it'd be cool if Shanks met him now, but like Gasop meeting Usopp now would not be good in my books.
Yeah.
Usopp has had nothing. Like he's still not a man. So yeah, I'm thinking I don't even want to see the. It's like how would Gasop react? I'm proud of you, even though you've just been carried this whole time. You know what I mean?
Or it turns out Yasop's actually a massive joke himself. Because, like, we know Usopp's a good marksman.
Really scared himself.
Yeah, dude, it'd actually be hilarious if Yasop's actually a complete loser, but he's a great marksman just like Usopp. And it's just like, he just gets carried hard on the crew.
Yeah, that would be funny, actually. Back in Log Town when there was like that anime only
Daddy Masters. That's canon. I regard that as canon because Oda wanted that to be canon, and it's in the novelization of the arc.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously that guy does not scale power wise to our current day people, and so it'd be funny if it turns out that is actually how strong Yasop is. Like he's only just slightly stronger than that guy.
It'd be funny. It'd be funny. I mean, look. We throw the terms around like first commander, second commander, third commander as like a power scaling thing. But like, you just need to point out Alvida, Moji, and Kabaji are now first, second, and third commanders. So, shit, take that how you will.
Alvida, by the way, the character who got literally one-punched by the start of
Luffy.
Okay. An almost accidental punch.
I don't know about you guys, but do you know what I think would actually be really beautiful come end of series? Helmeppo takes over as the rear admiral for the East Blue when Garp retires, and he captures Morgans and brings him in the series. And Sabo's big feat at the end of the series, and I know a lot of people are like, I want to see Sabo and Luffy and all that sort of stuff because they always talk it up. I would really love to see an end of series scene where we have Kobe fighting the buggy pirates and he brings in Alvida.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's come a long way since day one, but like, the players are still on the board. They haven't been taken out regardless of how many years it's been. But it would be sort of poetic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't have a big note.
It would be kind of sad if Alvida is stronger than Kobe.
Yeah. But mind you, I mean, is there any reason at all to think that Kobe doesn't have advanced Rio?
I guess not.
Just from a narrative standpoint, he's tutored by Garp. In 6 months, the kid went from dirt to shave. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I do not see even if his haki overall is dog, I don't see a reason at all that Garp hasn't actually sat him down and be like, here are some advanced uses of haki, since my job is to train you in them. You know what I mean? It's like you had one thing, I know this might be bad, right? But it's like the difference between Garp and Kobe and Rayleigh and Luffy is Rayleigh's like, I'm just gonna give you perfect understanding of the fundamentals, and it's up to you to learn from there. Whereas Garp's like, I'm gonna give you the fundamentals and teach you the advanced. Hopefully, you just get good enough with your haki to not be a scrub, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Because the thing about it is, it's like advanced armament haki is easier to teach than anything. Out of the advanced Harkies, it's 100% easier to learn advanced armament than it is future sight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially since, like, dude, people just forget this. We had Sentamaru doing it. We had both the Boa sisters doing it. Right? They had bounties at 30 mil. Pre-time skip gear 2 Luffy was folding them. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, true.
Kobe can have advanced armament and it not be as good as people think. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, what? Like, okay, he's got advanced armament, right? But what if he's only got, like, good enough Haki to, like, use Haki on, like, 5 minutes of attacks? You know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
he didn't have a big nose, and a big nose is symbol of liar, so I don't think he's a liar. Okay, that's in regard to Yasop. I mean, fair. I don't think he has advanced armament Haki, but he surely has advanced observation. See, I don't see, like, I see him having advanced observation based on him seemingly having an affiliation with observation Haki above all else. But it's like, he's got an affinity to the thing that's harder to get. The thing that's easier to get, he could just be taught by the person that's renowned for it. You know?
Yeah, true.
Like, otherwise, the institution of the Marines and the fact that they're trying to pass on fighting skills to keep the peace is a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I mean, shit, Rob Lucci had learned it pre-time skip. Anyway, I digress. So we get the Shanks flashback here, where he's going after the Cypher Pole CP1 ship, and we see a young Who's Who, and what I'm just going to refer to as Capone Gang Daddy Senior. Obviously they get ragdolled. Shanks, we see lose his arm, although in this version Shanks has his cape. But sorry, I just read I don't know if you're reading the comments here. I just got completely sidetracked then. There's some spoilers for Film Red, which is shocking about Haki.
Ooh.
Do I want a spoiler for Film Red? Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to ask whether or not you want to know it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not advanced like Luffy and Katakuri. I mean, Haki like Sanji. Yeah, I can see him having advanced. I mean, look. The thing is with Kobe, at some point in time, he's got to start showcasing stuff. Otherwise, he's always going to be a runner-up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people really understand that it's like, and even in interviews at the moment, Oda's saying there's like 3 years left on the story. 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe may not, like, when Kobe's like, I want to be an admiral one day. Is that an admiral? Vice admiral? Rear admiral? Or does any of the above count?
I think the whole point is that, like, he has a great dream like
Luffy.
Luffy, so probably Admiral.
Yeah. Okay, are we going to see him achieve that in the story? Or is that going to be a 20 years down the line, Kobe became an admiral? You know what I mean? It just shows that he's got great ambition because he inherited Luffy's will of being ambitious, in a way.
Yeah, right.
It's tricky. We also see here that Shanks' crew has some fodder on it, including, I don't know what the hell this baboon dude is. Is this a devil fruit or is this just a really unlucky looking guy?
The baboon thing.
Yeah, dude, like dead ass.
I feel like hasn't that monkey been on that guy's shoulder in the past?
No, because look above the flashback, and you see the monkey.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Haven't we seen that monkey sitting on that dude's shoulder, but a lot smaller?
No, it's a different thing.
Is it?
Yeah. So if you scroll up to where Shanks is looking at Luffy's bounty, the panel above that, we see the monkey, the normal monkey.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That normal monkey.
Okay. Scroll to after the flashback.
Okay. After that guy. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
that
dude,
guy.
I'm like, yeah, okay, we got the normal monkey, but like, dude, is turns out that monkey's got his own division, just filled with monkey people. But yo, Shanks and the squad talk about clearing out, and they talk about going after Barto. Do
But
you,
wait. One thing. Way that these guys in that panel with the weird monkey dude,
Yep.
like they really know the Straw Hat Luffy.
Yep.
We've literally gotten to the point where crew members on Shanks' crew are like impressed that Shanks knows Luffy,
Yeah.
not the other way around.
Yeah.
It's like a big moment.
Dude, it's funny. You'd think that like Shanks, who we know in the past has not shut up about talking about Luffy with people, and Luffy, who's like, my whole goal is to return the hat to Shanks, right? It's funny how like people in their organization have no idea they know each other in any capacity.
Yeah.
Like you'd think with like how much information Barto has about Luffy, he would have known that Luffy was like saved by Shanks as a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you were so close and you did it right at the finish line, bud. Just like Barriet and Blackback, which looks like a monkey. Yeah, maybe this guy's a mink, but I mean, he just could be an unfortunate looking dude. Like, oh, how am I forgetting their names? The two dudes from Jaya. The two dudes that look like monkeys. One that looks like a orangutan, and the other dude that looks like an ape. You know the guys. Anyway, so Shanks talks about hunting down Barto here. What do you think is in future store for Barto here? Because we're no longer glossing past it, and they're addressing it in the main story, which means they're going to hunt this man down.
Yeah.
I think
So are they gonna go stop Barto and then get the One Piece?
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Which, like, forgive me, can they even touch Barto? You know what I mean?
They touch Barto. I mean, Shanks can.
Can he?
Shanks and Beck could probably touch about anyone.
Because we saw that Odin was unable to bypass the barrier.
Odin?
Yeah.
When did Odin and Barto meet?
He met the previous owner of Barto's fruit.
Oh, okay.
And that's what was protecting Orochi, remember?
Yeah, right.
So, because ironically, what if Barto just coats his entire ship in his bubble? And then Shanks is just like, I can't, like... Or is Shanks just going to be like, I can't go Saki, you eat shit.
Or what if he just has such long-reaching Rio that he can literally just Rio through the barrier and kill and destroy the entire ship?
That's another question. Can Rio bypass the barrier?
Honestly, I'm seeing, when I imagine Shanks, I'm like, he's just walking on air and just doing whatever he wants, man.
He's just reality warping. He's just like, Luffy may have the Sun God Nika fruit, but dude, I am the Toon Force.
They're sailing away at like absolute max speed with all the wind they can get, and Shanks is like casually walking on the air and somehow keeping up with the ship.
Oh, dude.
And then just standing next to the ship with Rio, just firing it through the barriers like laser beam.
Imagine
that's Shanks in my mind.
Imagine he does like a reverse slash, where it just like the wind force sucks his ship back towards them, so they can't sail away. So instead of a projectile slash, he just like resheaths his sword so fast that the air pressure sucks the ship back. And he's like, where the hell are you going, boy? But yeah, they say, hey, Beck, isn't it about time we go claim the One Piece? And you get that real ominous, half in shade face of Shanks. And by the way, Ben Beckman looking old here. He's looking like he's 3 days from retirement. You know what I mean?
But hey, they're still buddies. They're still besties.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, look, Ben Beckman's a few good years off being a senior citizen, but they're besties.
He's a stallion, that man.
Oh, mate.
Stallion.
Um,
Honestly, this chapter made me really think back and be like, yeah, man's beast, man. Like, Shanks is straight up like, right? Like Shanks is a bit more talented. He had the experience of being able to see Roger fight, so he's kind of got that extra little edge over Beck. But Beck is no slouch, in my mind. I reckon Beck is a
do you think?
weapon.
Do you think we get to see them start a conflict in the next 10 chapters?
I don't know. I think Oda is very, very lax on showing Shanks off, and there's a good reason for it. I don't. It may well be that we don't see him till the One Piece.
The way
And we
this,
just hear from Bato what happened.
the way this sounds here, leans me towards Shanks gets the One Piece and he's sitting at Laugh Tale with his crew, and they're all like, "Oh, we're the Pirate King. You know, why don't we go celebrating that?" And Shanks is just sitting there. His main squad's just super serious, just all lined up, and everyone's like, "I don't get what's happening here," waiting, and eventually the Straw Hats show up, and it's you finally made it here, Luffy. If you want to return the hat, you've got to beat us.
That's the thing. I reckon Shanks this whole time has essentially just been like the guardian of the One Piece kind of deal.
Oh, it feels like
you
it.
know, yeah. And then he's gonna be. I reckon he's gonna be like sitting. Let's say the One Piece is in like a cave or something like that, and he's just like sitting outside of it. No one's gone in yet, and he just doesn't go in. And he just sits on the beach, just waiting. He hasn't even been there yet because he's like, I'm not the one. I'm gonna like make sure the real one comes to it. Yeah.
Chad is talking about how Ben Beckman's the smartest member of the Red Hair Pirates, and it's possible that he could decipher the poneglyph language. That would be an interesting take, but I feel like that's not necessary because I feel like Shanks was... We saw Shanks was there when they mapped out the chart to Laughtail.
Yeah.
So Shanks and Buggy know where Laughtail is de facto, and they at least know where the poneglyphs were to get there, and they also know where the poneglyphs were when they set their 4 points to get there. Which is like, a lot of people don't like to really think about this, but it's like, Buggy has tried to make his entire career on his own without riding the coattail of Roger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's tried to forge his own self, and even against Shanks, and Shanks has done the same.
Roger's treasure.
Yeah.
Went after John's treasure, whatever the hell.
Yeah. So, both of those characters most likely know where the One Piece is and how to get there, and they probably could have got there at any point in time. Buggy probably hasn't gone there specifically because there's nothing there that would actually benefit him, because it's knowledge, not treasure. And Shanks probably hasn't gone there because obviously he knows probably more than Buggy about the whole history, because he would have been more invested in that, and he's waiting on, say, this sort of time where you've got 2Ds in Luffy and Blackbeard ready to sort of shake up the world. Luffy, Blackbeard, Shanks fighting for the One Piece. Buggy on side casually go and find Captain John's treasure because he has a map for it. That would be funny, and it'd be even funny because a lot of people don't really realize this, but what's Captain John's treasure? Because Captain John was a member of the Rocks Pirates. When the Rocks Pirates disbanded, we don't know who took Rox's treasure. It'd be really funny if Captain John's treasure is just all the shit that the Rocks Pirates gathered together in their prime.
Yeah. Also, by the way, there was like a really famous pirate, like legendary pirate, Long John Silver. John being the key word. And I think it's pretty cool, the idea that like there's Gold Roger and he has the treasure, which is the One Piece, and then there's Long John Silver, which is John's treasure. So it's like he could actually just be hunting like Long John Silver's treasure. And could, you know how you were saying to me, what if like Buggy had like one of the great weapons?
Yes. So okay, chat. Just to give you the rundown on this.
What if he found
Long John's treasure, and it was one of the great weapons. Like basically,
Yeah.
Long John was the last owner of one of the weapons.
It could possibly be. Chat, just to give you the rundown on what we're talking about here. I was saying, since they were part of Gold Roger's crew, all the way up until literally on the journey towards Laughtail, where they had to pull over because Buggy got sick. We know that Roger was in possession of an ancient weapon 3 years before Odin joined the crew. Buggy and Shanks arguably know where the last road poneglyph is, where some of the ancient weapons are. And there's no reason that they can't possibly go and possess them if they need it. Now Shanks probably doesn't need it because he's a Yonko, but now that Buggy's a Yonko and he may need more firepower, what if Buggy goes and gets the ancient weapon that Gold Roger used to have?
Yeah.
That'd be something interesting, especially since we know that, I'm pretty sure we know that the Oro Jackson is hiding somewhere in the sea forest at Fishman Island. Now, I don't know that 100% for sure, but I think if that wasn't a fan theory, that was at least mentioned at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Which is also ironic here because why is Shanks at Wano? Well, last chapter we also talked about the fact that Pluton is at Wano. We don't know where Pluton is. Why is Shanks specifically here if it wasn't to be like, oh, he's going to meet Luffy? Or for something else? Where this exact same scene could have been taking place anywhere other than Wano.
Yeah.
Like, Oda was very specific in doing on purpose the seas around Wano. Now, maybe this is because, unironically as well, ladies and gentlemen, if he goes after Barto, do you know what that also implies? The Grand Fleet, or at least some of the Grand Fleet members, are near Wano.
Right, true.
So there's a lot of other subcontext of stuff to take into consideration here, where it's like, why choose this scene? Why choose this scene location? Why include this scene to the extent that we did, other than to build nostalgia? And what are other implications of this scene? Because the way it ends, it's like the people on the Shanks' evil agenda hype train are going to be like, ha 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 ha! It was
Shanks
me
is
all
evil.
along. You know? But
I feel like, by the way, I feel like that's not an agenda. That's just me.
no, it's a there are people out there, man. There are people in your camp.
Oh, good.
All right, you're not alone in your
Boy.
lunacy.
Boy.
I still hold on hope, and I find this really interesting because it's like, based on the Blackbeard pirates, which by the way we know this chapter, we finally get to see the newspaper that the Blackbeard pirates were reacting to, right? Revolutionary armies, chief of staffs, the king of Alabasta kills the king of Alabasta. Sabo assassinates King Cobra, right? The other side of that newspaper we know is the 7 warlords of the sea have been abolished. Blackbeard's on the move, specifically to get something that the world government was going to grab from something either relating to Sabo assassinating Cobra, VV missing, or the warlords disbanded, like abolishment, being abolished. There we go, language. Or it was an absolute BS thing that had nothing to do with anything with the newspaper. And it was just like really bad, like purposefully leaning towards something that made no sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because last time we saw it, it was just Blackbeard saying, if the world government's just going to claim the prides, we might as well grab it. Pack your bags, right? Whatever Blackbeard's on the move for, the scary thing about him is, because he's got Shiryu on the crew, Shiryu can turn the entire ship of the Blackbeard pirates invisible. They can show up anywhere at any time to fight anyone in any way. The way that the board is set here, it has me scared, especially for people like Shanks, especially if Shanks is going after One Piece, because how is Blackbeard expecting to find One Piece, which we know is one of his goals?
Yeah.
Because he very well could just follow Shanks. His crew could just follow Shanks to Laugh Tale. You know what I mean? There's a lot of crazy possibilities here, Jack. Because Grand Fleet has been seeing Luffy's Viva card burning before Gear 5th. I mean, true. I mean, the Grand Fleet seeing Luffy's card burning up, especially on the rooftop before he awakened. I mean, they literally could be like just out the front of Wano at this point in time in numbers. Which, if the Grand Fleet's like right here, if the Red Hair Pirates are like right here, if the World Government Invasion Fleet is right here, and there's still the Big Mom Pirates ship right here, there's a lot of people right at the coast of Wano right now, which is going to make leaving or invading pretty crazy. So,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, Green Bull for starters, in a tough spot. Shanks, odd cameo, but okay. We could see it going either way. I don't want to say the Grand Fleet shows up, but at the same point in time, it wouldn't be wrong if some of them showed up. If that makes sense. Like, imagine if Hajrudin and his crew showed up. Because they were nearby and they did see the Viva card burning. The whole crew didn't need to show up because the whole crew's like, oh, we've got faith in Luffy. But they were just like, we're in the neighborhood. Maybe they need a hand. That's how we get our way into Elbaf. Like, I don't know. Like, how long do you think before we walk out the door here? Especially since Green Bull started conflict.
I really don't know. It really depends on what's going to happen with Green Bull, because it seems that Green Bull's intent on hitting Luffy. Like, he's literally just not going to back down unless he meets Luffy. He kind of strikes me as being a little bit insane, to be honest. Where like once he wants to take out Luffy, it's happening, even if he's just like running through hell to do it.
I could definitely see Momo pulling the big brain move here and being like, the Straw Hats have already left. Can we ally with the world government? As long as we're not enslaved. You know what I mean? Instead of the Celestial Dragon Heavenly Tribute, we'll give Seastone.
Yeah, right.
And that could completely pull the rug out from all momentum for fighting right here. Like, it piss some people off, but like, Momo's also read Odin's journal and knows of like the prophecy.
I feel like Momo's got like a lot of conviction right now, though.
Yep.
So I feel like it's kind of like not honorable or whatever. Like, he wouldn't want to bow to anyone else again, kind of deal. Because he did say, like, you know, I'm never going to let people fear someone again.
And he also did say, I'll drive you from the capital myself.
Yeah. Which is funny because he can't even do a borrow breath.
Mm.
Maybe this entire fight is basically supposed to be like Momo holds him back until... Sorry, Yamato holds him back until Momo gets his stuff together and then actually basically masters...
The dragon form?
Yeah, the dragon form. And then just wins because dragon equals win.
I mean, I'd say that's a possibility, but at the same point in time, that's... You could have replaced Green Bull then with a generic Vice Admiral.
I mean, I think Yamato can easily take a generic Vice Admiral.
True, but you could have just had Yamato not show up here. She was too caught up in the celebration since we last saw her with Luffy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's.
I'd even say that the retainers could take a generic Vice Admiral.
I think it would depend on the Vice Admiral, though. Like, you could have sent, like...
Well, a generic one.
Yeah, oof. What's a generic Vice Admiral? You know, that's just like...
Not Momonga. not the top tiers.
Bastille. Bastille comes back, going 2 for 3. He's just like, shit.
I think anyone less than Virgo would be a definite win.
What's chat saying? What if post Wano is the start of Great War, since the Marines are moving and all the big players are getting involved? I think it's very possible, because something that people don't really mention is, especially in the interviews with Oda specifically said that once the One Piece is found, the series will be over. I think it's highly likely that the Great War happens before we find the One Piece. Because, and I know this might like ruin some people's headcanon and like the build up a hype, right? Oda's writing style is flashback right at the end of the war. Or like, sorry, flashback right at the end of conflict. You know what I mean? So it's like, we have this massive conflict, and we achieve all of our hopes and dreams, and we liberate the world. Luffy finds a One Piece, and it like turns out it's like, hey, can you go liberate the world? And it's like, already did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
I'm gonna be a naval. It's gonna be a naval battle from now on, getting on the next island as a resting zone. Will Vivi going to join Luffy, Revolutionary Army, or Queen of Alabasta? Yamato might get donutted like Ace. Could anyone here survive getting their life force sucked out of them by Green Bull?
Depends. I mean, Luffy got sucked up by Croc, right?
Also, I mean, are we forgetting that
It's possible that you can get your life force sucked out, and then Chopper just comes back and goes, "I'm a doctor," and then
like, are we also forgetting that Yamato's a mythical zone here? Like, she should be whipping out some like great ice mirror. You know what I mean?
that's the thing, right? Is that Yamato is kind of like on the same. I mean, she hasn't even gone into her devil fruit form, right? But like her devil fruit is like the same tier of
As
as
Momo.
Green Bull's is seemingly, and Green Bull so far has basically just used his devil fruit. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, like until Haki comes into play, seems like
It could be a bit of a back and forth, which would make sense as well, just from a generic standpoint.
yeah.
Advanced Conquerors can do that, I personally think. What do you mean by Advanced Conquerors can do that? Come on, Sage. Give me some details, my friend. In the meantime, though, I'd like to say how crazy easy it was for Green Bull to shut down Momo here. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, it's Momo, all right? Like,
yeah. But like, separate to it being Momo. Like, think about this. Like, that's like Doflamingo's awakening, as just like a generic passive part of his ability.
His like plants and stuff.
Yeah. So like all.
I mean, that's just kind of like a Logia, right? Like that's just doing Logia things.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. No, because like, although that we get told that they can do those things, we never actually see them do them. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we've ever seen Akayunu make a freaking wave of lava and just send it out. Instead, we see him go out and start boxing. But it's like, we're told he could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, he did it at the war. He did a lot of shit like that, like raining meteors from the sky and stuff.
Stopping Green Bull to suck life. Oh, okay. So could Advanced Conquerors stop getting your life force sucked? I'd say no. I would say no. I would say no. I'd say you'd need advanced armament for that. The barrier to stop being penetrated. Because I think once you're penetrated, you're kind of screwed here.
Yeah.
Like, that's why Momo gets to be the one that gets sucked up here. Because Momo gets to, like, I've got dragon scales. You can't penetrate me necessarily. Without Haki. You know?
True.
I think the reason why the Marines can't do something about the Yonko is because they don't have that much advanced Conquerors users. Or Conquerors users. I mean, I don't necessarily think that all the Admirals need Conquerors. Do you think Green Bull's got it? I kind of don't think he needs it. Specifically. I think if I was to say what Admirals don't need it, it's specifically Green Bull and Fujitora. You know what I mean?
Why wouldn't they need it?
I just feel like based on from what we've seen of their personality and how they can fight regardless, They don't necessarily need advanced conquerors or
I mean,
conquerors.
I think Fuji probably has a higher chance of having it than like Kizaru.
See, I don't see that because I see that Kizaru is definitively, even though Kizaru listens to orders, Kizaru gives more orders than Fujitora. He's a better leader. Like, he takes more of an active role as a leader, whereas Fuji just
I don't know because
thumbs
Fuji
around
has
doing his
his
own
own
thing.
Fuji has his own mentality, his own mindset, and I mean they all lead units, right?
Yeah.
Like Kizaru is like literally just like the option to become a fleet admiral comes up, and he's just like, yeah, if you guys want it. He just doesn't give a shit.
I still feel like Kizaru has it over Greenbull and Fuji though, if that makes sense. Now that we've actually gotten to see a bit more of them, and I'm not saying that Kizaru has it, right? I'm saying if anyone was gonna have it, it'd be Akainu and Aokiji. They definitely seem like the kind of people that would sort of want it. You know what I mean? Like they'd have that drive. And then like the tier under that's like Kizaru, and then under that to me is Greenbull Fuji.
Yeah.
I don't know because it's like we've seen when Kizaru first shows
I
up.
just feel like Kizaru has like literally no desire to conquer anything at all whatsoever. He doesn't care.
Okay,
At all. He
okay.
just does not give a shit.
See, the problem I have with that.
Whereas like Fuji is like, no, this isn't right. You know what I mean? Like I can see your mind and
The
I think this is
problem,
correct.
the problem I have with that is I don't necessarily see Conqueror's Haki necessarily being about conquering. It's more about leading. If that makes sense.
Hmm?
So to me, it's like people that have conquerors take more of an active role as a leader in more situations. You know what I mean?
Yes, but Kizaru doesn't though. He just doesn't.
But he does.
Again, like he doesn't really care.
But he does. Like his introduction, he's leading ground troops at Sabati, trying to meet up with other troops that are directly subordinate to him. Then in the war, he's the only admiral that gives orders throughout the course of the war.
Hmm.
Like it's hard because it's like I fully understand like he doesn't have the drive that our Kiji and Akainu were presented in the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like even like Green Bull has like a hardcore belief.
Yeah, see the
Like,
problem here is
everyone
though
should be controlled.
the problem with that is though the way I see Green Bull and Fuji based on this is they just go in and do shit on their own. Like when we saw Fuji address Rosa, he bailed on his crew, leaving Bastille to be like, well, we can't get in touch with Fuji. I'll start giving orders. And then Suru shows up. She's like, where's Fujitora? And he's like, I don't know. I'm doing the orders. And then Greenbull here is just like, YOLO yeet.
That's the thing is that Fuji is like, I don't know, he's not a Navy man, right?
Mm.
He's the kind of dude who would betray the Navy to like, because he doesn't think it's right, kind of thing. Very much got his own strong kind of mindset.
Chat, I understand, like, if Donjin Chao can have it, then all the admirals can have it. Like, I definitely understand that all the admirals could possibly have Conqueror's Haki.
I just think Conquerors is like there's just too many Conquerors. Like to me, Conquerors is like a very pirate thing.
See,
It's like going against the status quo. I want to be free. I don't give a damn. Like that kind of thing.
I don't see it like that, in all honesty. Especially because Sengoku has it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
To me,
But the thing is that like Sengoku and Akinu now are fleet admirals.
Yep.
Are like literally like the leaders.
Yep. But then you've got Zoro, you've got Rayleigh, you've got Katakuri, you've got Yamato, all subordinates that have got conquerors. That actively bend the knee to people.
Who?
Zoro, Rayleigh, Katakuri, Yamato.
Yeah, but I mean Zoro's comes from his extreme dedication and
But like that's the problem. That's how
Yamato has it,
that's the problem though, where it's like all the admirals can sort of have that same sort of.
Hey, like I don't disagree. It's just that like it's possible that they can be written to have it. I just feel like too many people have it. That it's kind of like the point. Like to me, like the whole point of the admirals is like their fruits are just so ridiculous. Like
I mean,
You
look,
just need their fruits, and they're
it-
already ridiculous. Like, look at Green Bull right now. He's stomping everyone in front of him, and he hasn't even used Haki.
see, this might sound a little controversial, right? I think that they will have it, at least some of them. I don't necessarily know if all of them will, right? Because that may be a little overkill, but I can see I can see arguments either way. But either way, it's like the Admirals have the second biggest feat for advanced armament Haki in the series. Like Luffy made an island-sized punch of advanced armament, right? 3 Admirals protected a massive scaffold. You know what I mean? Where every single other individual time we've seen people use advanced armament, it's like it's barely covered their hands. You know what I mean? They were able to project like a 100-meter by 50-meter barrier.
Yeah.
So it's like
I don't think they have no Haki.
No,
Like, I agree
no.
that they're like strong fighters and stuff. It's just that, like, I don't know, like
no, like what I'm saying there is
I
it's
feel
like
like the whole point of the Navy, or at least of the Admirals, is like they are so incredibly powerful and they have these crazy amazing fruits, and that makes them like ridiculously hard to deal with. But fundamentally, they just don't have the same like drive and the same like hardcoreness as like pirates have, like legendary pirates like Whitebeard and stuff have. And so like they can easily stomp someone like King because they just naturally have a ridiculous fruit. But then when you have when you have someone like Luffy, like current day
See,
Luffy or something, it's kind of like they just don't have what Luffy has.
the
They don't have that thing
way
behind
the
them.
way I see it, right? That's the reason why there's only the higher ups in the Navy have it. You know what I mean? Like, if people are having it, it's the Admirals and Fleet Admiral. There's no one else that would have it. You know what I mean? Except for Garp, who was essentially an admiral. See, like, the thing to me is like, you're right in a sense that it's like, it seems more of a pirate thing because of the freedom aspect, but that's why there's like people like Don Chinjiao that have it. People like Boa and Dofi that have it. You know what I mean? People like Kid that have it.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I don't know why.
to me, it's like the admirals, even though I think some would be more likely to have it than others, to me, I'm like, yeah, the admirals would probably all have Conqueror's Haki for that reason. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily have to be good Conqueror's Haki. Like no offense to the people out there that are a Yamato fan, but like, although Yamato has advanced Conqueror's Haki, she's the worst user of advanced Conqueror's Haki we've seen in the series that has it.
Which is fair, because how the hell does she even have it to begin with?
Yeah. Like, that's not to downplay her at all in the first place, because it's like, dude, already, do you know how many people have advanced Conqueror's Haki?
She hasn't used Enma, right? Like, she hasn't had a sword literally drag all of the conquerors that she has out of her into one attack.
She's just sort of picked it up from getting beat down.
Yeah,
Which,
like, I'm sure like Zoro's first conqueror's attack was probably like
Dude, I love that.
I'm sure like
Crocodile should have conquerors. The reason why I don't think Crocodile would have conquerors is because and this comes back to what I've been saying, he's not a good leader. He doesn't inspire people to him as a leader. He has fame for being helpful when he was at Alabasta, but when his crew found out he was the Mr. Zero, the only reason any of them stayed outside of Mr. One was solely because they were scared of a warlord. Like, I don't know if you remember that, but when he like revealed himself, they were all like, Mr. Zero's a pirate? Nani? You know what I mean?
yeah, but I mean, like, the whole point was that he had an entire organization under him that all feared him, and didn't just fear him; they feared anyone above them.
But that's what I mean. Conquerors don't lead by inspiring fear; they lead by inspiring. Even Akainu. Even Akainu. There are people in the Marines that fear him, but like you've got people like Onigumo that like lead by like they like look at Green Bull. Green Bull's like, I need that attaboy from Akainu.
I don't think any of the admirals lead by anything other than fear. Even if it's just like, it might just be like respect for their role, but it's not as much respect for them.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of respect for the admirals in the Navy. Not just because of
I
the
don't know.
role, but because of who they
I think
are.
there's a lot of respect for their position, but I don't think there's much respect for who they are. Like, not that there's necessarily disrespect. But it's just like,
Well, we've seen... Okay,
wow, that person's an like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're a Navy dude, you're like, wow, there's Admiral Akainu. It's not
true,
like,
but we've seen
oh my
people...
God, like, whereas Garp is like Garp the hero.
We've
you know,
we've
like,
seen...
he
I
has
mean,
clout.
we've seen people like Garp the hero. We've seen people like Smoker that look up to
Garp doesn't
Aokiji.
have conquerors as far as we know.
I mean, I think it's pretty a given, considering they had that whole line where it's like, oh, crap, Luffy inherited Conquerors too? Implying...
Dragon.
Yeah, but it's like, he inherited it too? As in, Dragon inherited it from me and Luffy inherited it from him?
Yeah, Conquerors is just a weird thing, to be honest. I don't... See, I think Conquerors is one of those systems that I'm not a huge fan of. It's because at the start it seemed like this legendary thing, like, you know, Luffy would just randomly do it, but there wasn't any explanation of what it was like, of what it was, and it just seemed like so awesome and cool and like unique. And then now it's like there's just too many people that have it.
See,
Don't like, it's not important. Like, it was not at all important that King had Conquerors Kid had Conquerors at all.
yeah,
He could have just not had it, and it wouldn't matter.
I feel
It
like
doesn't make
Kid
any difference.
almost shouldn't have had it, or if he did have it, we should have seen him use it, even if it was just the generic version.
Same thing with Yamato. Really, is like they said that she has, like you were saying, like they say she has like Conqueror's armament, and that makes her attacks really strong. They could have just said she has really good armament and has really good attacks.
Like she's a
what I mean?
mythical, she's a mythical zone. She gets a strength boost, and she's got regular armament.
Exactly, or just like she just has really strong armament because she's Kaido's kid. Or the same thing, you know how like Momo is like his body is tough because he's Odin's son. You know, like, oh, her body is really tough and she's really physically strong because she's Kaido's son.
The only thing I'd say though, right, is we saw that Smoker looks up to Aokiji and Fuji specifically because they're good guys, right? But we've also had specials where we've had like members, like we had this weird Commodore dude that had like posters of Kizaru up there. It was like, Kizaru is my favorite admiral, he's the nicest guy in the world, he's such a great boss, and shit like that, you know what I mean? So it's like, to me, it's like, we don't really see it, but I think there is a lot of admiration in the Navy for the admirals, but I think it really falls in, like, it falls into two categories for the most part, you know what I mean? Where it's like, you've got the people that are like subscribed to the absolute justice, where it was like Onigumo, who's willing to shoot someone that questions orders, and Greenbull, who like their sense of justice is, although they're different, they're sort of like a substrata of Akainu. You know what I mean? So to me, it's like you got that avenue that they all look up to him, and it's not fear. It's just like, we agree with his way of doing shit. But then you got the flip side that look up to our Kiji and then later our Fujitora, which is like the Smokers and the Kobes and the Drakes, you know what I mean? That like, they inherited sort of Garp's ideology and they more fear the other extreme of the Akainu ideology, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
But like, yeah, that's going on a tangent because there's a lot of like meta-analysis in that. Because again, it's hard to say because we've had very limited glimpses of it. All right, going through some of the chat now. Maybe Vegapunk can somehow create a way to access and imitate conquerors, or awaken conquerors in a person.
Yeah.
Could. So we know that he can remove people's memories like he did to Kuma, right? Could he copy the mindset of someone that has conquerors and upload it to a person?
I don't know. Probably not. So it depends what Conquerors is, yeah?
If it's based on the personality or if it's based on a birthright thing?
Yeah, or like, you know, maybe like your body has to be kind of like intrinsically engaged with it kind of deal or something, like, you know what I mean? Like yeah.
We talk about conquerors all the time, and like Oda has done jack shit to explain it. Even advanced conquerors, we've got no idea what it does.
Because so like, here's an example, like if I was like a hardcore power lifter, so I'd like train my nervous system to be really, really strong despite my size, and then I was transported into like a bodybuilder who isn't as strong, but they're a lot bigger, I wouldn't be stronger.
Mm.
I have better technique, but I wouldn't be stronger because I now have a different nervous system. Because a bodybuilder hasn't trained his nervous system. So even though like my mindset is probably better for lifting heavy, I wouldn't be able to push my nervous system the same way that he does because you still have to train those like nervous
Yeah.
system connections kind of deal. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. Like even though you know how to use Conqueror's Haki, your kind of like willpower or whatever might not have been like developed to do it anyway. So it just might be physically impossible. You
Uh,
have to just like keep trying to do it for a number of years until it happens.
I just had a funny thought that would be a massive FU moment.
Hmm.
So you know how Momo for a brief second created the flame clouds? Imagine if you just YOLO yeets some flame clouds at Greenbull, and Greenbull's like, huh, this does nothing to me. And he just lifts up the ground under Greenbull that he's like implanted himself in and just throws it off Wano. Just like lifting up a plant and throwing the pot plant out the window.
Mhm.
And he's just like, you didn't beat me, this doesn't count. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of funny.
Yeah.
SSG might show it. I don't think people... Wait, I don't think because people characters show the will of a conqueror. Crocodile should have conquerors. Oh, yes, okay. So the thing is about people that have... That are leaders that don't have conquerors, right? Is I think there's a few things that you've... Like, there's a few different aspects of it. I think you're more likely to have conquerors if people in your bloodline have already had conquerors. I think there's a possibility that you can unlock conquerors, or more likely to unlock conquerors, if you're exposed to conquerors, right? And I also think you need people. You need to have an innate ability for people to want to follow you to have conquerors, right? Because looking at it, everyone that's got conquerors, right? You've got Ace that had Sabo and Luffy looking up to him. You got Luffy, which, I mean, we all know people look up to Luffy like crazy, right? Kid has a crew of 32 people that all idolize him, even though he's a piece of shit, right?
Mhm.
You've got, like, everyone that was a conqueror so far in the series. People love, people idolize, even if other people fear them and that. The people in their life are like, they were such a great person, I follow them, I'm ride or die. Like, even Dofi, you know what I mean? Dofi instilled such loyalty in his people that they literally were just like, yeah, just kill me, man, if it's more convenient for you, if it takes out your enemies. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's those kind of people that inspire the conquerors. Like, even Don Chinja having conquerors, a lot of people are like, oh, Don Chinja. You forget that his grandkids were like, oh, Granddad's so awesome. Oh my god, he's a beast. It wasn't until Sai, like, went against him that, like, Chinja was kind of like, damn, boy, you're my favorite. You inherit that shit. You know what I mean? Because, like, up until then, like, they were kiss asses, and he treated them like kiss asses.
True.
Like, I think a lot of people forget, like, when we see conquerors throughout the story, it's like they all, like, even Boa, like, Boa's a piece of shit on her introduction, right?
Yeah.
Anyone in Boa's life would probably hate her realistically, right?
Mhm.
The entire Amazon Lily, even though they know what she's like, they're like, she's so awesome, we love her, yeah. She instills that inspiration, like, people want to follow her. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's why I'm like, to me, it's not so much about being a leader, because there are people that are leaders that don't have conquerors, right? Like you were saying before, Crocodile. But Crocodile was a leader that didn't have people believe in him, if that makes sense. People just feared him. Sort of the same thing with Rob Luigi. People respect his skill, but they're not inspired by him, if that makes sense. So I think that's like the big line in the sand for conquerors. Do you think Perfume Fema or Magna is advanced Conqueror's Haki attack? So, are you asking if I think Boa has advanced Conqueror's Haki? At this point in time, Boa pretty much well could have advanced Conqueror's Haki. She almost most definitely has advanced armament since we saw both of her sisters use it. And something to take into consideration there as well with Boa is it doesn't matter if she has advanced Conquerors or not, because there's never situation like if she has it, it doesn't make a difference or not in her combat and her combat style, because she turns people to stone regardless. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like whenever she's kicking people, it's like, yeah, she could probably realistically, she could probably coat her kicks in advanced armament or use advanced armament immediately after kicking someone to break the stone. But it's like, dude, if she continued to stone anyway, it doesn't matter if she's got the other abilities. She'd never rely on them. You know what I mean? And there's no reason to say that she wouldn't have him. Like, at this point in time, there's... Out of all the people that are confirmed to have Conqueror's Haki, it's a 50-50 split on people having advanced Conqueror's Haki already. So, for every Conqueror's Haki... every Conqueror introduced, I'm like, there's a 50-50 chance to go to the advanced form of it, following what we know so far, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like it's a bit much. To be honest. Again, every time I see it, it just plays down Luffy, because when Luffy got Conquerors, it was like such a huge thing, and then when Luffy got Advanced Conquerors, it was like a crazy thing. And then the other thing is, like, with his future sight, like his future sight helps, but I don't know, like, it's like I see a lot of people talking about like, oh, Katakuri, like, oh, you couldn't even hit Katakuri because he's got future sight, but it's like it just hasn't seemed. You know what I mean? It's like
The reason why...
when NL had perception haki, like basic perception haki, and Luffy's fighting him and just couldn't hit him until he goes into the drunk mode, and then he finally hits him. Same thing happens with Katakuri. It's like Luffy like can't hit him until he almost basically gets future sight himself, and then he can start hitting him or goes into Snake Man or whatever. But like, and that's like the hyping up of the new ability. But then once Luffy gets it, like once Luffy gets future sight, anytime he's fighting someone that's on his level, they're hitting him. Anytime it's like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's it.
It's just got a really good showing up front. It
See,
doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be that OP. The same way that Big Mom seems so cracked, and then she turned into Big Mean.
See, this is the thing though. From here on out, it's like if everyone has advanced all three types of haki and a good fruit, like they don't necessarily need to be awakened. It's just like there's set up in the story for everyone that's of note except for Blackbeard here to have all of these things already. You know what I mean? So it's like Luffy's already on this level, so it just means people that he fights aren't going to immediately get one shot. And it just means people on our side are going to have those moments that Luffy had the last previous few arcs for themselves now. You know what I mean? Like, look at when Vista and Marco cut Akainu from behind off guard with Haki. And Akainu's just like, Haki users. You know what I mean? It's like, that very well could be future sight. He very well could be opening up his body and that, which means just like, all that means is now when Luffy's fighting someone like Akainu, it's like you can go for a punch situation. It's not going to just be Katakuri 2.0 over and over. Whereas for people that don't have future sight, if they go up against these people now, it's going to be like they were fighting Katakuri. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, which I think is important because it's like realistically, the only two people that it's going to really matter for that we care about is Zoro and Sanji. Zoro, low-key, his big thing at the moment is that he needs better observation haki. He's got the advanced Conquerors. He's got the advanced Rio. He's got Rio, I should say. We don't really... you know what I mean. Right? Yeah. The thing that he really needs is, like, can I hit them? Which is going to be, do I have good enough observation to hit them? And, Mihawk's whole thing is, like, I'm the clairvoyant. I've got the Hawk eyes. I'm all about that observation haki.
Yeah, that's the other big thing though, is that like Zoro has never been shown to have any like significant perception haki. It's just kind of been like, I guess he has it, kind of thing. He's never really shown it off at all. And he still kept up with everyone. You know
So,
what I mean?
but the
Like,
thing
I
is,
feel like at the end of the day, all of these things, like, they just kind of
that's the ironic thing though, because it's like
out.
and like that's the ironic thing, right? Where it's like King didn't have it. King didn't have any form of advanced haki, so it didn't matter there. It was just like a technicality. Kaido had it, but he didn't use it for most of the fight because for whatever reason, the dude likes to test everyone's limits by limiting himself. He's like bloody Kenpachi from Bleach, except even when he whips out an ability, he's like, I don't feel like using it. Like, just think about how much of a different situation would be in right now if Kaido not only like if Kaido wanted the win. And what I mean by that is like Kaido wasn't afraid to dodge. Since we saw he was capable of it. You know what I mean? Like he pretty much took most attacks head on.
Yeah, but that's just not Kaido, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
not even Luffy. Really.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Whereas like I think going forward, like we saw that they're capable of it, so it's like they had it but they didn't use it. We're gonna get to like some of these admirals, and like if Zoro's got to fight one of them, right? It's gonna be like Katakuri but deadly, and we're gonna see it's like shit. This is where my Haki's got to bloom for observation here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That well, I mean, especially to go against Mihawk because there definitely needs that
I
development.
still think that I still think that all the admirals are just going to be big
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 fruits.
fruits. Yeah, just big fruits. Like they'll have the haki, you know, like they're not going to lose because they don't have haki. But like it's going to be big fruit. Because to be honest, like that's the most fun part about these
One Piece,
fights
yeah.
is these people have these crazy out there fruits that are like really awesome. It's like, you know, like yeah, I don't know. It's like Naruto with no jutsu.
Yeah.
It's only taijutsu.
No, I understand that, and like,
Yeah, that's the weird thing with haki is it's cool and it's really powerful in the series, but it's just not it's not that entertaining.
oh, dude, I'll take a good fruit over
But
Haki any
it's
day.
always that's the thing, it's always gonna seem very secondary to fruits. Like I feel like even though like probably like 70-80% of Kaido's power was his haki, not his fruit necessarily. Um, 'cause, you know, if he didn't have any haki, he'd be way weaker. If he didn't have his fruit, he'd be weaker, but not to the same extent. Like, I feel like all of the interesting, cool stuff was like Kaido using his fruit, shooting laser beams and throwing wind sights, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, being in his hybrid
See,
form with his tail, like the fruit is the cool part.
I look forward to like cool fruits and how they interact with Haki. You know what I mean? Like, how can you manipulate to have them like amp up the fruit power more with your Haki? It's never like I just want everyone to have Haki. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the only reason I'm like, apart from narratively, like why would I want the admirals to have advanced conquerors? So that their hits are heavier when they're like a blunt force thing. You know what I mean? Because like realistically, we're not gonna have Kizaru shoot Zoro in the throat with a laser and kill him, right? But we may have Kizaru's lightsaber sword like hit Zoro while Zoro's guarding. You know what I mean? So it's like getting that big wind up baseball swing with some advanced conquerors or something on it would be like, you know.
Yeah.
All right, let's get through some of these chats. Crocodile has a secret that he doesn't want everyone to know about. That's why he's not a conqueror. He's easily humbled by Ivankov. Black Flame Sabo. I don't think we're ever going to get to see Black Flames, unfortunately. Ivankov may have turned Crocodile into a lady. I think we've all heard that theory at this point. Not a popular opinion. Marco for Nakama is more likely than Yamato. I feel like Marco's retired. What do you think?
I don't think is more likely than who?
Is more likely to join the crew than Yamato?
Nah.
Like
I think I don't think Marco's going to join the crew, but I do think that like in the final fight when we see all the fleets, he'll be there with whatever the hell's left with the wiping pirates.
I know this.
Maybe just in fodder.
I know this might be upsetting. I actually don't think that. I think he may be present. I don't think he's going to have an active combatant role in the rest of the story.
I mean, I think his combatant role will at most be like he'll be there, right? But then his combatant role will just be at most like one panel of like who he's clashing against.
Or just healing
I have no
people.
idea. But like, I think that'll be with most people.
Hmm.
Like, you know, you'll have people like Vivi fighting somebody. You know, you'll have like one panel of Vivi like throwing a. What did she fight with again? She had something. Right? Like it was like a rollerblade or something that she
Who,
would like throw at people.
who's that?
Vivi.
Yeah, she had a chakrams.
Yeah, yeah. I could totally see like one panel where she's like throwing a chakram at like a vice admiral, and then it just kind of like skips away, like a kind of no name one,
Hmm.
or a rear admiral or something, and then it skips away. Like in the final battle, like you just see everyone that they're fighting, not necessarily you see their fights.
Yeah. Which is upsetting because I'd love to see drawn out fights for it, but at the same point in time, like a lot of the stuff being left up to your imagination makes it better.
Yeah, for sure.
Kuma might reunite Vivi with the Straw Hats. That's an interesting take. If Kuma bleeps Vivi over with the Straw Hats, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, true.
Um,
I mean, I guess where else is she gonna go, right?
Ooh, that
Luffy's been
or
on her mind because she's been talking to Shirahoshi about it. Unless she's been sent to Shirahoshi.
the revolutionaries put out a public broadcast where Vivi's like, the world government assassinated my father. They're a piece of shit. Like that. Imagine Akainu trying to explain that one.
Yeah, true.
He doesn't push himself to be one, but he can blend in with the crew just fine. True, having a female character is fine. Jinbei's bedroom's the aquarium. That is so disrespectful. Jinbei doesn't have a bedroom. He just falls asleep behind the ship. They just tie a rope
He
to his
just
leg.
ties a chain. Yeah, he ties a chain around his leg and jumps off.
Shanks' crew don't have devil fruit user. Blackbeard, most crew have devil fruits. Your thoughts? I heard a theory a time ago that Zoro is using Conqueror's Haki from and his lobby because Ashura. Yeah, I
reckon that's Caparuni.
I could see the idea behind it. The reason why I don't agree with it is because even when Zoro used Ashura against Kaido, he didn't know he was using Haki of any form on it. At least Conqueror's wise. You know what I mean? I think that was more that Kaido could sense the Conquerors in him dwelling, which ended up awakening like immediately after. You know what I mean?
I think even if Oda comes at himself and says that he was using it back then, I would just be like, nah, you run that. I don't believe it.
Otherwise, the pacifistas took an advanced Conqueror's Haki slash from Zoro and kept going. So I'm just saying, man. Luffy's generic Gear 2 Haki punch is more than a Zoro advanced Conqueror's Haki slash. Oh, I don't know about that. But thoughts on Shanks' crew not having fruits and Blackbeard's crew having fruits? It's just a good parallel, and I think the Blackbeard crew is gonna end up being stronger than the Red Hair Pirates crew because unironically, the fruits that they're getting is just like mad utility.
Yeah.
Did I say the volume cover for 103? Yes, I did. Getting to see all the awakenings on it was cool. Can't wait to have a copy of it in hand. I'm waiting for volume 100 to come out so I can read some of the rooftop battle. Zoro lost and learn a fourth kind of Haki. The kind of Haki that Zoro's gonna learn, the fourth kind of Haki that Zoro's gonna learn is like the reason he gets lost is his observation Haki is so good. He actually sees the fourth dimension through the fourth dimension. Like the reason he's lost is because he's sensing where his enemies are in parallel universes. That being said, we've been going for 2 hours here. We might wrap the stream up in a few minutes. So get your last questions out, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, what are your thoughts on what's going to happen next chapter? There's a bunch of setup. There's a bunch of different possibilities. We've got the whole setup of the bounties, the setup with the revs. We haven't seen Dragon yet. We've got Akainu talking about firing on all fronts. We've got Blackbeard on the move. We've got the Warlords and the Warlord bounties. We've got trying to move to the next island. We've got the conclusion of the fight against Green Bull. There's so much stuff happening right at this moment. What do you think we're going to focus on?
I think next one we might get Lord bounties probably because I think the Straw Hat bounties might be left till
After?
the Gomu Gomu chapter.
Okay. So, by the way,
I'm thinking,
we're only
I'm
2
thinking a
chapters
bit
off
of
of
a
that.
Warlord wrap up and then more Green Bull.
Okay. Personally, I feel like we get to see a bit of the Warlords leading into maybe the Marines with maybe, like, you know how he says, I don't care where they try to hit us, we'll strike back and return fire on all fronts. I reckon there might be a an attack on a government facility next chapter.
Okay.
Whether that's
Do
black.
you have any tip on which one, like a generic base or what?
I'm gonna throw a random one out there. Blackbeard goes after Vegapunk's lab.
Okay.
That's a mad hailmaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be cool to see though.
Because like him talking about where they're gonna go and Blackbeard saying pack your bags. If the Navy's just gonna claim it, we might as well take the prize.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's in relation to the Warlords, what if the paper? Because we haven't seen the other side of the paper, but we know it's about the Warlords. What if it's like Warlords abolished SSG to take out Warlords? And Blackbeard's like, well, I want this weapon. I want these weapons that the world government has. So let's go break in and we'll steal Vegapunk because we still need to get Vegapunk's introduction, right? And think about how much of a worse situation that would put Akainu in. And that would be an immediate thing that he'd be like, we're going after him. I don't care. We're going after him right now. What's chat saying? I want to see the Straw Hats next chapter, to be honest. I miss them. I mean, true, we also need to sort of get the end of some partying stuff. Yamato will get her bounty after the fight with Green Bull, since she is still unnoticed by the world. I'm calling it now. Yamato is going to get 2 bounties. One is Odin and one is Yamato.
Right.
Because the whole, like, calling herself Yamato thing, CP0 that was present might be like, oh my god, self-proclaimed Odin running around, so we better, Odin must be alive, we've got to give back his bounty. Like, all these scabbards that were dead would turn out to be alive, you know what I mean? And then
another dude's just like, oh, but what about Odin though?
Yeah.
I mean, what about Yamato though?
Yeah.
Yamato was there as well.
That would be super funny because Yamato would be going around in the like clothes for the photo that they've got for Odin, but is just obviously not Odin. So anytime she like gets a bounty increase, she's like not sure which bounty's going to increase. Yeah. That would be a funny gag. Yamato's mum reveal is Toki. Yo, Kaido, Mrs. Steal Your Girl. Mrs. Odin, come over here. let me do something real bad real quick. Kaido been acting up, has he? I just seen the scene where Zoro cuts Train, or maybe Zoro fights with Marine, who is your favorite. There is Zoro with the left eye. Oh, yeah, you're talking about the scene in Eni's lobby. The eye looks red, and after time we didn't get to Zoro's left eye. I mean, at this point in time, I just think Zoro's left eye is gone. I think what you actually need to think about, though, that red eye is Zoro using observation haki, because the very interesting thing there is Zoro cut Mr. 1. That's pretty much well confirmed to be a mixture of armament and observation haki. And number 2 is, in that scene, Zoro cuts a metal train in half perfectly without hurting an individual. So, to me, that scene, even if it's a retcon in a way, I think that's more like him using a little bit of that sort of haki to do that. Just unironically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other than that, we might wrap the stream up there. We've been going for 2 hours and 10 minutes. I will say, and I keep saying it, every time we see Kizaru, he looks like the right-hand man of Akainu. So I can't wait to see the power duo
And he
work.
is, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he is. I mean, because like that's what I'm saying. Like the other two are like total wild cards, but Kizaru is pretty predictable. Like, yeah,
I can't wait to see the next time we see him because just like just think of like the YOLO Yeet jumping up in the sky and shooting out the lasers.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Imagine if you can put Haki on him too. That'd be BS.
yeah, true.
Although on the bright side, you can always shave to escape him. All right, we've got a few last questions here. 3 ancient weapons, 4 gods. Fishman Island, God Valley, Laughtail, Navy, Celestial Dragon, Imu, Mihawk, Shanks, Blackbeard, Revolutionary Army, other sea-destroying Fishman Island, Elbaf, Northwest, South Blue Sea in 3 years. I don't think we're getting the North, South, or West Blue in the next 3 years. Elbaf is going to be a damn short arc, and I think what we get from everyone else is going to happen very quickly. I don't think we're going to get a God Valley arc at all. I think, if anything, the closest thing to it is we get a little bit of a Kaido flashback when we get to find out more about Yamato from her flashback. As for the 3 ancient weapons, I think the 3 ancient weapons are just going to tie into it really quickly now because people are just going to start using them. I really think Zoro is better Haki master than Luffy since Luffy's trying to master
Bro.
3 powers while Zoro is mastering 2 complementary with Haki. Just like how Shanks'
Zoro's
crew
mastering the sword.
Look, undeniably, off the time skip, Zoro had better armament Haki than Luffy. That's not even questionably at this point in time. It's been proven.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter because, like, having all 3 types of Haki is just by default just like way more impressive.
Yeah.
And the fact that Zoro's got 1 form of advanced Haki and 1 medium level of advanced Haki, like, and I say that loosely only because we've seen him do projectile Haki slashes to Monet, right? It's like Zoro at best has 2 out of 3. Luffy has 3 out of 3. Maxed out. Yeah. Like, no offense to Zoro, but right now the dude needs to, like, pick up his observation game.
Yeah, to be honest, like, I mean, and then, you know my feelings about Zoro with Enma.
Oh, dude, at this point in time, like, before we leave Wano, are we keeping Enma? What about the Nidai? Is that just a mute point?
Yeah, right.
Like, that just feels like such a DTs to have, like, introduced Nidai at the beginning of the arc and then just like, yeah, nah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like okay. Well, look, we're going to wrap the stream up there. Daniel, you want to say your last words?
And my last words?
Last words? Yo, peace. Cheers for coming by. Last 2 questions. Luffy only trained Haki for 2 years. On the other hand, Zoro was improving sword skills. Zoro learnt Haki 2 in that 2 years. Zoro's observation is just fine since he can keep up with King's speed. The thing is, he didn't actually keep up with King's speed. He's just good at reacting to things right in front of him. That's a bit of a problem there. I might actually do that in another stream. I might break that down, the whole Zoro versus King thing. That might be a fun stream to do. Especially since you've got your definitive opinions on King. We might pull up the whole fight start to finish from the official viz as well, so that way we don't have any issue with translation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that might be a fun stream. That being said, peace. Nothing but love, nothing but respect. Have a damn good day. Goodbye.